What's up, everybody? And thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Young Democrats of Georgia Black Caucus, where we interview future leaders and current leaders about our current missions and statements here in Georgia. And today we have, again, I say this every time, but I feel like we bring the firest people out here, the Commissioner of District 5 for Henry County, great brother, first off. Great dude. For all my Morehouse people, Morehouse alum. No, without any further ado, let me introduce you to Commissioner Kevin Lewis.
Hey, what's going on? I just want to slap some hands like we on the basketball line or something.
Sparkling lights and all, man. What's up, Commissioner Lewis? How you doing?
What's going on? My man Devontae, how you doing tonight, brother?
No complaints at all. I've been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one for a minute, So we're just going to go ahead and dive straight into it. But before we dive into it, I want you to give people a little background about who you are. And really, let's start with who you are.
Okay. Yeah, I go back up. Originally from Durham, North Carolina, Bull City. Anybody knows anything about North Carolina? Grew up there. After graduated from high school, came down to Atlanta to go to Morehouse College. Man, Morehouse blew me away when I took a visit. I had a couple of guys I went to school with that came down here, and so it blew me away. Came down here. One of the greatest experiences in my life, going to Morehouse, just soaking up the R of Morehouse and everything that it offers. Met some great brothers, super intelligent brothers, brothers who are changing the world. I was there, changed my life because I ended up meeting my wife. She was over at Spelman, so we got together. We've been together for 31 years and married for 25. So ended up making Georgia my home. Been in Georgia for 30 years now. So I'm a Georgian at this point. Love living here. Have 3 kids, two of my oldest daughters there over at Spelman College right now. So that's where all my money is, over at Spelman College. so just out here trying to beat the streets and not just kind of foray over to how I got into politics. When I was young, my dad ran for a county commissioner seat when I was about, I think, 5 or 6 years old. So I just remember being on the campaign trail with him and, meeting people, talking to folks. A lot of my leanings and a lot of things I learned, I got from him. He never met a stranger. It didn't matter what your station in life was. He talked to everybody, and that became me. That's what I believe in. I believe in representing, everybody. I don't care what stage of life you're in, what station you're in. People need to be represented, and that's what I feel my calling is. I tell people all the time, how do you like the job? And I said, this is something I feel like I'm operating in my purpose. So, super excited about representing the folks from Henry County in District 5. This is my first year in office. Been getting a lot of things done and a lot of great things to come.
Perfect. I love it. And shout out to Spelman for taking all that money.
All of it.
We have some Spelman women in our organization too. So shout out to them. And I will have to say, money well spent, because I don't know what they do over there, but some of the brightest go to Spelman and Morehouse. But
absolutely.
I don't know what they teach them, but man, so let's go ahead and get into a portion that I really want to talk about. And this started back when I had first met you. And we had dove into a conversation really about youth in politics. What do you feel like is this disconnect between the youth and wanting to be civically engaged?
Well, first of all, I think it goes back to the school system. They don't really teach civics like they taught it when I was coming up. And just put it out there, I'm 50 years old, so when we came up, civics was taught in school, and how government worked, how people interact with government. It's not taught like that anymore, which I think is on purpose. And that's a conversation we could probably have for 2 days. But now you have young folks, which are a huge group. And when I say young folks, I'm talking about your 18 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean when I talk about young folks. Huge group demographically, but when you look at their voting record, is abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to talk about a disconnect, meaning why is it that and there are a lot of activists, got a lot of good young brothers like yourself, good ideas, great ways to change how we look at society and how we operate, but it doesn't translate to the voting booth. And that's problematic. It's problematic because when you look at the current crop of politicians, go from the federal level all the way down to the local level, they look at numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They look at numbers. And when they look at the numbers and they look at, perfect, point to talk about, we just had elections here in Henry County. And first of all, just for this last election, I think there were only about 7 or 8% of registered voters actually voted. But when you get down to young voters, I mean, it was in the hundreds, like out of 100,000 registered voters in the county, you probably only had a few hundred in that 18 to 25 category who voted.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be realistic. And this is a conversation that me and you had when we first met, is how do you get people to listen to you when they sit there and look at numbers and see that you don't vote? And young folks might say, well, we want to share our stuff on social media. We want, that is our activism. That is how we do things. But at the end of the day, you still need people to advance your interests.
Mm-hmm.
And to get people to advance your interests, you have to let them know that you're going to go to the ballot box.
Mm-hmm.
You have to affect them so they can advance your agenda. And we're not there right now.
And that's what I want to jump into when you said I feel the same way. There's a lot of activists, but I also hear a lot of like, I'm an activist. I don't care. I don't like politics, or I don't like politicians. But the things that you want to change involve policy, which involves politicians, which involves politics. So it's like you can't do it without it. And I want you to kind of dive in deeper on that point where you were saying they listen to those who vote. Because I remember we had a town hall meeting, which I appreciate you for showing up to. You attended that and didn't even know me that well. And you brought up the point, and somebody basically was like, well, we just don't not only listen to people who vote. And I don't feel like you had a full time to explain what you meant by that. So before anybody gets that confused, can you dive into that?
Absolutely. So there was a lady. She's a state rep. She's over in Cobb County, and we were just talking about it. And so the audience that we were geared toward was young voters. And so I'm not a person that sugarcoats stuff. I like to dive straight in, be straight up with people. And I'm sitting here talking to the younger voters and saying, look, if you want to be heard, you have to put the numbers out there. You have to show that you're going to show up and you're going to affect the outcomes of races. And I was like, I'm just going to be honest with you. People are going to pay more attention to voting blocks and what your agenda is. I'm going to advance your agenda because I know you're going to go out to the polls. I'm like, this is just human nature. Let's not be idealistic and say, oh, I represent everybody. Like, yeah, we represent everybody. But let's be real.
Who do you listen to?
Come out there and vote and sit here and come and let their voice be heard. They're gonna get some special attention. Meaning, we're gonna make sure that we include their agenda. I had a professor when I was in Morehouse, a guy named Dr. Abraham Davis, one of the best professors I've ever had in my life. He told me story, and I didn't understand it at first. He was saying that he ran for, I think, Fulton County or Atlanta City Council. He had run like 6 or 7 times. And, we were all snickering in class, like, why do you keep running if you weren't going to win? And he said, I knew I wasn't going to win. He said, but I had enough of a following that I could get what I wanted on the agenda because those people needed my votes.
Mhm.
They needed the votes of the people who followed me. And that stuck with me. So even though he knew he wasn't going to win, he knew he had enough of a following to get his agenda item on the city council's plate, because they had to pay attention because he had enough of a following. And so I kind of equate that, like to young people now. There are young people going to change the world. Like when I get old, y'all going to take care of us older folks. I'm not old yet, but when I get to that point, young people are going to run the world. So why not start getting those changes in now? Because, say there's something, let's talk about just climate change, things like that. You wait 20 years from now before you start doing things that can affect climate change, we're in a bad place. We're in a bad place. When you start talking about workplace issues and the traditional work week, which I think young people have really affected what the traditional work week looks like, work-life balance. These are the issues I think that young people are actually changing, the spectrum of how we operate. But it can be at a more advanced pace if you get more of the activists to actually get out there and use the ballot. So, let's be clear. The ballot is only one piece of the puzzle. And, sometimes you hear people, oh, you got to vote and that changes everything. No, the voting does not change everything. This is only one piece of the puzzle. However, it is an extremely important piece of the puzzle because it affects who represents us on the national level, who represents us on the state level, and to me, most importantly, who represents you on the local level, because the local level affects what is your taxes, your schools, transportation in the area, all of these things that touch you on a daily basis. Like you have to be involved, you have to be engaged. And so where are we now? How do we, and this is what I asked you when I met you. How do you get your cohorts out there to, you're holding the picket signs, but we need you to go check the box too.
And this is the point that I've been seeing is I think it's like with everything, they need to see representation. And then I think also too, it needs to be more like-minded people like yourself that are like, I'm not going to be here forever. Like we need y'all to step up and do this. So with local government and people understanding what exactly people do, what does your title as a commissioner entail? Like, what falls on your plate and what do commissioners take care of?
So commissioners, it's really everything that affects you. So any new developments that crop up in the county, that has to go through a board of commissioners. Your road systems, your transportation systems, like in the city of Atlanta, I think they're progressive. Even Cobb County is progressive. Around the Battery, you just saw the county commissioners approve new transportation systems. Like they even have transportation systems that are autonomous. Like they don't even require people to drive them. Those things were adopted by the board of commissioners in Clayton County. You have a new MARTA setup coming. Those things are adopted by the county commissioners. So they shape how your region, how your county is going to look for not only the next 1 or 2 years, for the next 20 years. One of the things we're dealing with in Henry County right now is 20 years ago, the commissioners at that time, they didn't want people to move to Henry County. And when I say they didn't want people to move to Henry County, they didn't want certain people to move to Henry County. And so what they did was they didn't improve any infrastructure projects. So fast forward from 2003 to 2023, Henry County's population has doubled, but our road structure can't handle it. So now we're playing catch up. So these are the things that your commissioners, they set the tone. We just had a future land use map and comprehensive plan that we just passed in Henry County. That dictates, where multifamily housing is going to be, what type of housing you're going to have. One of the things that's interesting about Henry is we had a lot of pushback about multifamily housing, and I get it. I get both sides of the argument, but it's important because right now, younger folks, they're more apt to live in an apartment or more apt to live in a townhouse. And so when you don't have that type of housing, you have what you have. It's like an aging community. And so if you think about it long term, you can't have everybody in your community be over 55 years old, because at some point, just people are going to pass away, and it's not going to be a vibrant community. Your community can't move forward. So when you look at a place like Atlanta has a huge mix. I mean, it's a huge place, but it has a mix. So you have your apartments, you have your townhomes, you have so many different types of housing. You have affordable housing. We don't have much affordable housing in Henry County. So that's something that we're trying to change now. But you have some progressive leaders in Atlanta who they make sure that they have government investment in affordable housing.
And some of them are like right next to each other. You'll have an apartment complex, a neighborhood, and affordable housing, like all within the same radius of each other.
But that comes from your county commissioner and your city council. Those are the people that make those decisions to have that, and they also make decisions on the flip side to not have it. So if there are things that you need or things that you want, things that your community would want, your local elected politicians are the people that are going to make. It's not the federal government. You can't blame Joe Biden on what's going on in Clayton County or Henry County or Fulton County. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has absolutely nothing to do with Joe Biden. Now, if you want to talk about on the state level, but your governor and your state house and your state senate, they have something to do with, do we have Medicaid? Do we have hospitals to take care of people? You go to rural Georgia, they don't even have hospitals. You have people that have to drive 2 and 3 hours to get care.
Yep.
That is from that is not from the federal people. That is from your state elected officials and your and some of your local politicians. Those are the people that make those kinds of decisions. So those are things that are important to your life. I mean, that touches you.
And I think that's to me, I think from what I'm noticing is that is the biggest disconnect. People are like, I'm not going to go vote because Joe Biden ain't done nothing for me. Like Joe Biden and this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, I mean, people like you are right around the corner from them, living probably in their neighborhood, and they have no idea. Like just zero idea. So what made it, because I remember before we jumped on, you were talking about how a lot of your biggest push for your daughters was to make sure like when they turn 18, y'all are going to go vote. So
absolutely.
How important was it for you to instill in your kids the importance of not just voting, but like also helping them understand this conversation right here?
It started a while, and people ask me like, when did I get interested in politics? And I told them, I was like, it was when I was a kid. I didn't run until recently, but one of the reasons I didn't run because my wife was running. She was trying to become a judge, and so we couldn't vote. We had small kids, and so we both can't be out in the street at the same time. You can't have the kids raised by wolves, so to speak. You know what I mean? So somebody has to make sure there's somebody in the house. So she was running for judge. So I remember she ran in 2018, and my kids saw firsthand the importance of voting because there were 5 people in the race. So she ended up getting most. She had like 40-some%. So she won the primary. But since she didn't get the 50% plus 1, it had to go to a runoff. When it went to a runoff, people didn't come out. When I say people, our people didn't come out. So my kids saw firsthand how that affected our family, how that affected their mother, how that affected my wife. People not voting. She's a fantastic judge. She's a fair judge. She is doing things for the community. She cares about the people that come in her courtroom, no matter what. We haven't always had that on the bench. Let's be real.
Yeah.
A black man, black woman coming in the courtroom, that's a daunting proposition. That's a daunting. I mean, come on. Let's be real. You
Mhm.
go in the courtroom. You're like, well, hell, I don't know if I'm going home today. I might be going to jail, and it might be something minor. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
you have to have people who understand what is going on. So I take that back to. So my kids saw firsthand what the ballot meant. It was very personal to them, and
Mhm.
so when my oldest daughter, when she turned 18. I remember we went, me, her, and my wife, we went as a family. We went to go vote. We went the first day of early voting. And lo and behold, it took us 6 hours to vote. We sat in line for 6 hours. And one thing we refused to do, I didn't want to sit there for 6 hours because I knew, early vote last 2 weeks, I could come back another day. But
Yeah.
I refused to do it because I said she was gonna sit her butt in line with us for however
You
long
gonna
it took,
feel this.
because she's gonna feel this. Because I wanted her to understand what it was for my mom and my dad and my grandparents, what they had to do. That's nothing. Them little 6 hours we stood in line is nothing compared to what they had to do to try to get the ballot.
Mhm.
So that's the hard thing. And I think as a generationally, I think we have failed um, imparting the importance to our children and our younger folks, because they know what it is. And that's why people pay attention. I'm going back to numbers. That's why people pay attention to the older voters, because they understand. And I don't care what's happening. It can be a hurricane, um, blizzard. It doesn't matter. Folks 65 and over,
They
they're
gone.
going to vote because they understand how hard it was for them to get the ballot in the first place. But
Mhm.
now we've kind of lost that importance along the way. And so with our kids, we wanted to make sure that they understood the importance of voting. They see the importance, because my wife, she was reelected, so she's a state court judge. I'm a county commissioner, so they see the importance. They look at us, and that's our thing. We want to be an example to them, and we want to make sure that they understand. I don't care what it is. You're voting for the dog catcher. You're gonna go out there and vote.
Yeah.
So my oldest is 21 and our middle one is 19. And every single election that has gone on since they have been voting age, they have voted in. Special election, I don't care what it is, they have voted. Like, I'm gonna call them. They know I'm gonna call them. They know their mom's gonna call them and say, "Hey, did you vote yet? Well, you need to come home. You
Mhm.
need to go vote. You need to go vote."
And for those who
So
don't
we're
know,
not gonna let you sit there.
these are the Obamas of Henry County in my eyes. These are the Obamas, because I remember in your inauguration, your wife swore you in, and when you talk about like setting a good example and like stuff like that is what I love to see, especially in our community. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like you know what I mean. I had a great upbringing, as great as my parents could do, but I'm like that right there is like
Mhm.
that's strong, that's powerful. So if we could get a little bit deeper, maybe on that side of what do you think is the most challenging, say for let's go with the younger people that are getting involved with politics and they are getting involved with community work. What do you
Oh.
feel like is the most challenging part when you both are
And this is
doing the
funny.
same thing?
And I probably get in trouble for saying this, but sometimes older folks need to learn how to let go.
Mm,
They need to learn how to let go. That's what's challenging for young folks right now. You got folks in politics. You have folks in organizations like NAACP, SCLC. A lot of these organizations that are grassroots organizations that have historically, you know, led our people forward.
mhm.
You have folks that don't want to let it go, and I think
Or
that's the
dying soft.
biggest. I think that is the biggest mistake. And it is one of the biggest challenges for young people now, because we have young folks who are chomping at the bit, who have great ideas, who are ready for leadership. But you have people that won't let it go. And you can look at you can look at every level. Look at a national level.
Mhm.
You got people who've been congressmen, congresswomen, senators. They're dying in office. Dianne Feinstein just died now. She was 90 something years old. Let's be real. You shouldn't be 90 something years old in Congress.
Yes, it's the same thing
That
I
should have
say
been
about
turned that should have been turned over to somebody younger a long time ago.
I think the part that they're missing too is like it could be somebody that you've been training and grooming up until that point to where you can feel comfortable to pass it off. And it's crazy to hear you say that because your commissioner chair was actually on this call, but I had voiced to some leaders in the organization that, hey, like, the young people are ready. Like, there's a lot of qualified young people that are ready to get in office. And I was met with the pushback of, well, that y'all can, maybe work in the office a little bit like that, but we have to go against people like that one lady, the fitness lady. I'm not gonna say her name or
Yeah.
nothing like that, but
No, I know what
and
you're
I
saying.
thought it as an insult, kinda, because I'm like, you basically said you don't think that we don't have enough qualified smart young people that could help battle against these people are a challenge, and I
You,
kind of
you
felt
need,
smited a little bit.
you need it. That's the challenge. Is it not? So
Yeah.
in Henry County, we have the Henry County Democratic Party. Our chair is Duro Haynes,
Mm-hmm.
20-something years old. I was so excited when he won the election. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is very good because now you have somebody young. But people are coming at him out the woodwork. You got these folks who like, oh, he young, he doesn't know anything, and da 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 da. Like, no. You mentor him. You help him navigate the waters. That is what our role is. Sometimes you have to switch roles. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, this young person is doing it. So maybe they aren't as politically savvy. They haven't gone through enough things in life. Because the older you are, you're gonna go through some things that are gonna help shape you. Maybe they haven't gone through it. So you know what I should do? I should help that person navigate the waters. Avoid the crocodiles, avoid the alligators. I need to help them do that instead of being the nitpicker from the side who sabotages everything that person does. It is a huge. I can't even express how much of a challenge that is right now. Is there's people who won't let go of power and won't transfer over to a younger generation and be a mentor. Like that.
You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere.
You can still be relevant. You can still be relevant.
We still know who you are.
Hey, you can still be in the picture. You can still be in the picture.
All
you
in
just
the
be
videos.
you just be on the shoulder. You can be right here instead of being in front of the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
You can even tell the young person to acknowledge you. Oh, I want to thank, Brother Lewis here for being my mentor. I learned everything. Hell, you can still be relevant, but sometimes you got to figure out how to let that go. And I think that is a conversation. It's almost taboo. It's like people don't want to have that conversation. And I'm sitting here like, I'll have a conversation. I'm not, I told you that a long time. I'm not doing this forever. I'm not. Like, I hope that I have the wherewithal to say, you know what, my time is up.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to pass the torch to Mr. Jennings. It's time to pass the torch to Eric Bell, Representative Bell. Like, it's time to pass the torch and help mold these leaders and listen to them because they have good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, we get caught up in, well, this is the way we've always done it. But think about how fast society is changing now. Technology changes at it's a mind-numbing rate. And, I'll take my cell phone. Like, cell phone stuff happens. I'm taking my daughter to school this morning and they were talking about something on the radio with a cell phone. I'm like, what is that? She was like, you don't know how to do that, Dad? And she's like, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, oh, snap. Like,
she understands that better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. I just, that's just what it is. She has grown up with technology. So she is able to incorporate. So it's my job to pour into her, like, okay, this is how we've done it. These are ideas. These are ways of doing things. And then she can add her own. Well, this is what I see from my perspective. I do that all the time. I ask my daughters, I got a 21-year-old, 19-year-old, and 15-year-old. I ask them all the time, how do you feel about a situation? Because I know that how they feel about a situation, it's going to be a different perspective, them being that age and I'm 50.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's going to be much different. Talking to you, I talk to you about something and you present something to me and I'm like, okay, I hadn't thought of it that way. You know what I mean? That helps me make good decisions. That helps me govern. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to pass the torch. And if you had me on 10 times, I'm going to bring it up every single
Every
time. We have to figure out a way to pass on institutional knowledge and make transitions. Because too often, think about what happened, and this affects all of us, and especially our young women, people of color. Look at what happened in the Supreme Court. You had a Supreme Court justice who wouldn't leave when it was time. She wouldn't leave when it's time, and so she died. And President Trump got to appoint her successor, which flipped the court to an untenable situation where we're probably going to deal with for the next 20 or 30 years.
Because those
all
are
because
lifelong
somebody,
positions.
all because somebody wouldn't let go. And so now that affects all of us, our kids, and especially our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 daughters, so I have to think about the government trying to legislate about reproductive rights. It's none of your damn business.
Facts.
It's none of your business.
Trust me, I'm right there with you. I got a 1-year-old. I mean, she, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, the long run, like, yeah, you're 1 right now, but I mean, I want you to have the ability to make the choice for yourself one day. Like, even being your dad, I don't feel like I have the right to tell you, like, well, nope, you need to do it like that. Nope. Like, that's your own personal, but that's funny how you tied that in, because I didn't even really think of it like that. We just think of like, oh, Trump appointed a new, but it's like, okay, how that opportunity come about? What can we have done to avoid this? Like, so I
think about Trump. Let's just go for him just a quick second, because I don't like to talk about him a lot. But he appointed, in 4 years, he appointed over 400 judges. 400, over 400. That's just judges, not all the other appointees he had. 400 judges. Their decisions affect us on an everyday level. They affect reproductive rights. They affect prison reform, social justice reform. They affect that because, I know, just like I'm gonna bring up Representative Bell again. I know he's pushing for cannabis rights in Georgia. So it's foolish. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. It really doesn't matter to me. But it's foolish, not just foolish, it's criminal for us to criminalize something that is legal in a lot of states. And so now you're sending Black and brown people to jail here for something that is legal in half the country. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. That's not right. That's not right, because you have somebody who has a record now and can't, like I said, it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter. It's not right or fair for somebody to do something in California, but here in Georgia, we criminalize it. It's not right or fair that in Fulton County, you get a citation for marijuana, but in Henry County, you get a criminal record for marijuana. That's 20 miles away. 20 miles. That's nothing.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's a ticket here and it's a crime here that goes on your record, which affects your earning potential, which affects whether you can vote. It affects all of these things. Like, those are things, and to me, these are things that younger people can bring about change. Younger people gotta go to the ballot box. They have to. It's a multifaceted approach. The ballot is one part, but it's a huge part. You have to have a social activism. You have to be on the front lines. You have to do that, but you got to be at the ballot box, and then you got to be in the boardroom.
Yes, and I think all of that can be done at the simultaneously. Like, well, again, with Representative Bell. Okay, Representative Bell has me specifically as a young person, interests and agendas that I can rock with. Okay, push the young people to push for somebody that's pushing for. So it all really can fall in the same line,
Absolutely.
So it's kind of one and the same. Like, hit the ballot box, but also hit the ballot box for the person that
advances your interest. I've always said it is stupid for me for people to vote for people. Don't vote against your own interests. That's the craziest thing in the world. So like you're literally gonna vote for somebody who doesn't represent your interests. Like what do you say? Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Tell me how that works. I don't get that. So okay, let's Representative Bell. You got Representative El Mahdi Holly doing great work. You got a lot
Shout out
of
Representative Holly.
yeah,
I said shout out
Derek
Representative Holly.
Jackson, Derek Jackson over in Fayette County. You got a lot of people doing good work. But I look at Representative Derek Jackson in Fayette. He just got elected by 14 votes. 14. That's too close. He's a good guy. He's doing the people's work. But 14 votes, that's ridiculous because people won't come out and vote. So the Eric Bells, the Representative Hollies, the Derek Jacksons, the Valencia C's, they need the young people to keep them because they're doing good work. But they need people, and part of it is outreach too. You know, even from my side, I have to figure out, okay, how can I connect with the younger voters to advance their interests and make sure that I can get them, you know, from social media to the polls, like from school to the polls.
Stuff like this, I feel like, you know, me, I watch more YouTube than I watch TV. And I feel like, and that was a part of my thought process with stuff like this is, you know, regardless of who's able to catch it live in action or while it's happening, you know, with our viewership, it goes up afterwards. So I'm like, okay, obviously someone's stumbling across it, somebody's sending it to somebody, now that person may be intrigued and be like, oh, who is Commissioner Kevin? Oh, that's actually my commissioner. Hold on, let me boom, 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 boom. So I feel like we use social media as a tool to grab the young people, inform them, and then boom, spin it off like that, you know?
So the trick is about how do we inform them and get them to get in the Uber or the car to go check the box.
We gotta get Lil Baby to drop a song talking about how cool it is to vote. Lil Baby gotta drop a song talking about how you gotta vote. Lil Uzi gotta drop a song talking about how you got.
So now you want to have a 2-hour conversation because there's nobody green lighting Lil Baby dropping a song about voting. Nobody's gonna green like that. They want Lil Baby or Sexy Red to talk about hands on your knees and excuse me for the bitches and hoes and everything. That you want they want the green light that, but they don't want you to talk about somebody going out to vote. They don't want you to talk about protect your neighborhood. They don't want you to talk about that. That doesn't. Nobody greenlights those products anymore, which goes back to us. And I'm gonna talk about Black folks. Okay, we have the resources now that we can greenlight our own projects. We have the reason, so we have to stop relying on other people whose interests aren't necessarily our interests. So yeah, they'll pay you some money, but what you putting out doesn't uplift our community.
And we making the money now, and that's the part. I think that's where I'm getting frustrated with it when, especially shout out to Dante Carter over there in North Fulton. He told me to read a book called Brainwashed, the Black Inferiority Complex.
Yes.
And you know, of course I'm thinking of like, yeah, it's gonna be very Black power, da da da. And it's like, okay, yes, you're right. We're oppressed here, we're oppressed here. This is how this has happened, this is happening, this is happening. But now you have the knowledge to go do better. And that's kind of how I take the approach now. It's like, don't get me wrong. Yes, we are very oppressed. Yes, we do have a lot falling on us every day, but we are in a way better position to make the change than shoot, even my parents. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Parents, you know, we got the money now. Atlanta, the #1 city for people under 40 that make it 6 figures. You can start your own record label. You can start, you know, so it's like we do have that power and control now. I think we're on the same page. It's just like, why is it not clicking yet?
we're selfish as a people, and I got a slogan I want to coin. I might have seen it, so I'm not gonna say it's my slogan, but it's don't buy red bottoms, buy land. You know, we have to floss. I gotta let Devontae know I'm right. You know, I'm rolling the Bentley. You know, I got the fly. I got the new hats. I got all that. I'm going to the hot brunch spot. You know,
I got to bust down Rolly.
Got to bust down Rolly. But I'm being a consumer. I'm being a consumer. We're consuming, but we're not using our money to advance others. We're consuming. Man, we got some affluent Black folks in Georgia. We got a lot of them in Henry County. We got a lot of them in Atlanta. Just the whole metro. I'm talking about, you know, living in $3-4 million houses. You know, got every car you want. You know, but when you look historically, 90 years ago, I think Black people had about 20 million acres worth of land. Juxtapose that now, the collective, all Black folks in America have about 1 million acres of land. So in the space of 90 years, we have gone from, you know, 20 million acres of land down to like 1 million acres. Ted Turner, one person, owns more land than all the Black people in the United States. One person. Than every Black person in the United States. So, you know, that's a little different than the conversation we're having, but these are the types of conversations. These are the conversations I have with young folks. I'm like, you know, when you first start a job, do your 401k, buy land, invest in land. They don't make it anymore. Think about it. You think about, you know, economics. They don't make that anymore. You know, the people who are affecting change around here that I see are the folks who are investing in land. They're investing in, you know, those are the types of folks who can, you know, greenlight projects. You know, Tyler Perry, he can greenlight his own projects. He owns a lot of land. He is invested in real estate. He owns a lot of things, so he can do his own thing. You know, people like to make fun, like, oh, well, you know, his movies are. I don't care what you say. He has advanced more Black folks and gotten more Black folks rich than most of the people you know. You know, my political hero was Maynard Jackson. Maynard Jackson, mayor of Atlanta, he changed the game. I would say he is one person that is probably more responsible for the number of Black millionaires in the country than any other one person. When you look at your H.J. Russells, your C.D. Moody Construction, you know, these are types of businesses that we haven't commonly been in. They are the companies they are now because Maynard Jackson advanced the system of making sure that we were included in everything in Atlanta and in Georgia. And that has trickled down to where we are now. That the reason why Atlanta is Atlanta, like present day, a lot of the policies that Maynard Jackson did. And I'm gonna go back to being young. When he first ran for mayor of Atlanta, all the old Black folks told him don't do it. All the old Black, they don't generally tell you that part about the story. They were mad at him.
They don't leave that part out.
They were pissed at him. He was young. He was like in his 30s, I think, late 30s. They were pissed at him for running. They were like, no, it's not your time. They told him it was not your time. He became mayor, and a lot of the stuff that we see in present day Atlanta is because of him. The reason why Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is the number one airport in the world is because of him. But he was a young person who bucked the system and went ahead and did what he needed to do. The older folks didn't want him to run. They told him, you it's not your time. You don't run. He did it, and look what happened. And so that's at the end of the day, like I'm leaving the young folks. That's what you have to do. You got to push the envelope. Part of pushing that envelope is you got to vote too. It's a multifaceted approach. That's checking the box at the ballot. That's just one piece of it. You got the other pieces, but you're missing this piece. And to move us forward, we need the young folks. We need them. You know, I'm gonna say it if nobody else says it. We need young people to do their thing. Like, you all are gonna take care of us. You all are gonna move us forward to that next level. You know, when I look at my daughters, and I try to look at most of my decisions in the context of my family, like, is this good for my family?
Mm-hmm.
Is this good for my neighbor's family? That's kind of how, you know, I start with my decision making.
Mm-hmm.
But like with my daughters, you know, my wife's a judge, I'm a county commissioner. But I look at my ancestors who were sharecroppers, you know, some of them were enslaved. Every generation, we're trying to get better. Every generation, we're trying to get better. So that's what I want for my daughters. Like, you know, I want them to do better than me. That is my goal, for them to do better than me. But for me to do that, for us to do that as a people, you have to want the next generation to do better than you, which means you have to set the table for them. You have to put in the work to elevate them so that they can then take the charge. They can accept the charge. They can take the baton. And, you know, I used to run track.
Back in my day.
What's I can still run, don't get me wrong. But 4x1, what's the exciting races? The 4x1, the 4x4. But that 4x1, I don't care how good you are, how athletic you are, how fast you are, you're only as good as the exchange. You're only as good as the exchange. You can run a 9.86, but if you don't pass the baton, you're still gonna lose.
And I ran track in high school too, and we had probably one of the fastest 4x1 teams in school history. And the fact of you saying that we lost a regional championship, we were neck and neck the whole time, and me and my boy fumbled the exchange. So that right there just sums it up. So you speaking my language with that one. I hear you with that. And I'm gonna have to definitely go ahead and say y'all are doing a great job. I mean, I came across your, because, you know, I work in the Capitol. Shout out Representative Miller, District 62. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Tanya Miller, she's doing it too.
Yeah, that's
she is.
Watch out for her. But you came across your wife when I think they were there for the organization. They have multiple.
Probably Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill, yeah. And they were like, you know, and I was like, dang, that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? That's the type of. So I say that to say, you're right on track, or y'all are right on track with doing that. And, you know, I just appreciate you speaking the truth with us today. I feel like we probably had one of the most, I don't know, it's maybe you Morehouse men too. Y'all go there, because Representative Bell, we had a kind of very similar conversation, but I love how we went there. I love how we tackled conversations that need to be had. Need to be had, and we're gonna keep them going. And, you know, shout out John Wesley Dobbs as well. You feel me? As far as other black men in Atlanta that, you know, doing great things. So
John Wesley Dobbs was Maynard Jackson's grandfather. You see, you understand what I mean? That was his grandfather.
I ain't even know that. I legitimately didn't know that.
Dobbs is Maynard Jackson's grandfather. So Dobbs is setting the stage
for the.
That's how this works. That's how this works. You gotta set the stage for your progeny, set the stage for the people coming after you. John Wesley Dobbs did what he did so that Maynard could become mayor of Atlanta and make Atlanta great and make it great for us. Our ancestors, they did what they could do, but they were setting the stage for us to do better. We have to do the same thing. It's my job, it's my role to make it better for you, to make it better for my daughters. So 30, 40 years from now, you are elevating our people. That is our role. We have to learn how to do a better job of that. We've lost it in a little bit. I think we've lost it in a little bit of capitalism and being consumers, but we can still do it. We can still do it, but we just have to make a concerted effort to do that. Know your history, know what people did before you, see what worked for them and what didn't work for them, what we need to improve on. That's why I look for the younger folks. Okay, tell me how I can do this better. I'm mature and I know ways to do things. I know how to get things done, but be open to new perspective. Be willing to pass that baton. A good exchange.
A good exchange.
Good
This
exchange.
podcast is called this episode. We're gonna call the Good Exchange. Thank you for
Good
the
exchange.
Spotify title. Appreciate
Good
that.
exchange.
Good exchange.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner Lewis, I appreciate you for taking time and speaking with us. This was a great conversation. For all of y'all that will be watching this on YouTube and everything else, you can see on the bottom. Make sure you follow Commissioner Lewis on Instagram at Vote Kevin Lewis on Instagram, and follow him on Facebook at Kevin J. Lewis. And for my Spotify listeners, you can follow him on Instagram at VOTEKEVIN LEWIS, and on Facebook at Kevin, letter J, Lewis on Facebook. Commissioner Lewis, Brother Lewis, I appreciate you. And we gonna be seeing each other real soon.
Yeah. I should be seeing you Thursday night, but anyway.
You will.
Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you are doing, the work that you are doing. I want to support you. I'm going to support you. You're doing the people's work. I appreciate that, and let's make it happen. We're doing great things, and it's stack it. We just got stack it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
We're gonna get it
you
done.
Have a great evening.
You too, and all y'all in Henry County, watch out for James Earl AC coming soon, man. Coming soon.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, Brother Lewis.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Peace.